Lynne McTaggart is one of the central voices in the new consciousness movement. She is the award-winning author of 7 books, including worldwide bestsellers, The Field, The Intention Experiment, The Bond, and her latest book, The Power of 8. She is also the architect of The Intention Experiment, a worldwide global laboratory testing the power of thought to change the world, and also serves as the editorial director of What Doctors Don't Tell You, one of the world's most highly praised health publications. Welcome, Lynne.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
Oh, it's so wonderful to have you here, and I'm so excited to dive into intention and the power of 8. But before we do that, my first question for you today is, what is your definition of a miracle?
Well, I think my definition of a miracle is something that we can't explain rationally. And certainly, I have been witness to thousands and thousands of miracles. And to be honest, Melissa, I had a really hard time accepting it. But that is what started to happen with group intention, both in big and small groups. And it was really shocking to me because I'm a hard-nosed journalist at heart. And so I don't really accept miracles. I do accept them, but I am always looking for explanations. And when this all started happening while I was investigating intention, it really turned everything for me on its head.
So let's dive into that a little bit. Let's talk about what you're here to share on a deeper level with humanity, a little bit about your story and how you got into the work that you do.
Okay, well, I run a publication called What Doctors Don't Tell You, and now an exhibition company called Get Well magazine. And so my work in journalism has focused on health journalism for 30 years. But about 20 years ago, something like that, I was very interested in some of the studies coming along that were demonstrating that spiritual healing works. And I kept thinking to myself, wait a minute, if we can take a thought and make it, somebody better just by thinking about it, well, that undermines everything we think about how the world works. And so I wanted to investigate this further. And I ended up writing a book called The Field. And in that, I interviewed a number of frontier scientists who were on the verge of some basic new discoveries that redefine who we are and how the world works. And so I wrote this book up called The Field, but there was a bit of unfinished business, which was the suggestion that thoughts are an actual something with the capacity to change physical matter. So being the hard-nosed journalist I am, I wanted to know, well, how far can we take this? Are we talking about just a subtle shift of a quantum particle, or are we talking about curing cancer with our thoughts? Are we talking about ending violence with our thoughts? I didn't know, so I thought, okay, I'll test it. And I figured at that point, I knew a lot of scientists in consciousness research. And I'd also had lots of readers by that point. My book The Field was in 30 languages. So I thought, well, if I just have them periodically come on to my website and send an intention to some well-controlled target set up by one of the scientists, I'll have the largest global laboratory in the world. And that's exactly what I did. I started playing around with intention. Back in 2007, after publishing a book called The Intention Experiment. And the book was also an invitation. It wasn't just about the science of intention. It was an invitation to test this. So we did. I didn't really think it was going to work. But, it really worked. I mean, it was shockingly worked. We've run 33 experiments to date, everything from trying to make seeds grow faster to purifying water to lowering violence in war-torn or very violent areas. We've done that 7 times. And also trying to heal someone of post-traumatic stress disorder. And of those 33 experiments, 29 have shown measurable, positive, mostly significant effects. So the shocking part for me was, well, that's better that's a better track record than most drugs,
Oh
most
yeah.
pharmaceutical drugs. But that isn't the interesting part of the story. The interesting part of the story was that I started realizing there was a mirror effect going on with the participants. If they were sending intention for peace, their lives were becoming more peaceful. They were making up with their estranged relatives. They were, they were connecting better with their coworkers and their not so nice boss. They were in love with everyone they came in contact with. They were basically hugging strangers. So that set me on some other paths to try to scale this down to a group of 8. And that also happened by accident.
Oh, well, let's talk a little bit about that, because that's your newest book, right? The Power of 8, and taking this intention experiment. I've read all of your books at this point and have really been fascinated. And actually, the intention experiment, years ago when I read it, has actually brought me on the path of what I do now, because I've been doing what's called the world's largest miracles experiment. I've been traveling for 3 years, recording miracles and teaching techniques and things like that to see, what a miracle is, and what my definition of that is, which is like the instantaneous healings that I've seen and different things like that. And it's super powerful. But I was super fascinated when The Power of 8 came out, and to recognize, because when I've read a lot of the studies that have been out, it's like what the square root of a 1% of the population is supposed to shift a population. But then you're saying the power of 8, that it takes only 8 people to really create and shift with an intention, and that's super powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the only thing that happened with this was really accident, because I wanted to scale this down, the intention experiment work, to a workshop. And I wasn't really sure what to do. So I was sitting with my husband one night and we're talking about what to do with these workshops. And I'm kicking it around and I'm saying, well, I don't know, maybe I'll put people in groups of 8 or so and have them send a healing thought together to some member of the group with a health challenge. And my husband's a great headline writer. So he just said, yeah, I love it. It's the power of 8. And that's really how it started. But we didn't expect it was going to be anything other than a slightly relaxing feel-good effect, like having your back massaged by someone or getting a facial. So we got people in groups of 8 or so. We had them nominate somebody in the group with a health challenge. We had them send an intention to that person, and we had them come back the next day. And we expected it, as I say, to be a very mild effect, but that's not what happened. What happened was people were coming back and saying, I was scheduled for knee replacement and I'm walking normally today. I have terrible IBS and my gut is cleared. I have depression and it feels lifted. I have cataracts, they're 80% better. And on it went this first time. We were completely shocked. And I didn't believe it. I thought, oh, well, this is just a placebo effect. Until I started doing it over and over and over again. I've now seen it with thousands of groups around the world. And I've found that it not only works for the recipient, but also the senders were getting healings too. Amazing healings. I mean, just this summer, I was doing a talk at a conference of about 700 people. And I put the people in groups at the end, had them do healing intention in little Power of 8 groups. And one of the women there was a woman in a wheelchair because she had some idiopathic paralysis and she was paralyzed from the neck down. Very sad because she's a dancer. Young woman too, in her 20s. So her group elected her and sent intention to her. And after the 10-minute, and that's all it was, intention, I asked people in the group, and in the audience, did anyone experience anything? And so they had her raise her hand, or they nominated her, and she looked around and she stood up. Now the whole audience was totally flabbergasted. She stood up, she turned around, she talked to everybody, and it's that. I have people over and over again. I had a woman with a dislocated arm, and it slotted back into place in my audience. Again, somebody who wasn't taking courses of mine, just part of an audience I was teaching, and we have this extraordinary miracle. I've had people where they couldn't focus well. One woman, because she didn't have she had a stroke, same audience, and suddenly she focused clearly. We had another woman, another person with a knee problem. She couldn't even walk on that knee anymore. And at the end of the 10 minutes, she did a deep squat. And on and on and on. So I've been very shocked by this. And that's why it took me a long time. This happened back in 2008, the original intention groups. And it took me 10 years to get the courage to publish a book about it. And I wanted to study it from every angle, which I did, to try to understand it. And I've been essentially cataloging, monitoring, studying with brain studies, and looking at it from every direction to kind of dissect this miracle. You know, I wanted to dissect miracles. I guess I'm a 21st century doubting Thomas.
Yeah, that's what I love. I was going to say, you were a skeptic. You weren't somebody that was like seeking this out and saying, oh, I believe in this. This is the way that it is. You were actually someone that's like, no, I'm really on the other side. I'm a skeptic. I don't really believe in this stuff. I want to search out these things. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. And so how has that changed your view of the world?
Well, I mean, I was moving in that direction from the field, because the field, when I started talking to scientists, I suddenly realized each of them were on the verge of this. They'd discovered a little piece of something that compounded into a completely new view of the world, a completely new science. And the problem with scientists is they don't like to venture beyond their own little experimental patch. And also they talk in code. So it occurred to me early on that I was going to have to decode this and also put it all together. So that whole process changed the messenger. I suddenly realized we're really different from what we've been told. We have far more human capacity than we dream. And so that started shifting me in that direction. But the intention stuff, well, I thought, well, there's something here. The science shows it. I was quite skeptical of a lot of the popular stuff about it, believe, receive type stuff. Yeah. I thought, well, wait a minute, there's probably certain techniques that make you better than others, and there's probably certain things you have to think about. There's probably certain heart states, mind states, all of that. And also, as I said, I wanted to see, does it magnify when lots of people are thinking the same thought at the same time? And getting back to your question, some of the things we've done with our intention experiments, we've had the same experiment, like our seed experiment, trying to make seeds grow faster. We carried it out 6 times with the University of Arizona with various size groups, from thousands over the internet to just a small group of 100. And we got identical effects. Every single time we sent intention to those seeds, they grew completely and significantly higher than the 3 other controls. We always had 4 sets of seeds. So I recognized that size possibly didn't matter. And that certainly is the case with a group of a power of 8 group. And by the way, it doesn't have to be 8. I've shared with you that this came about totally by accident. Yeah. And what I've experienced over the time is that 5 works, 12 works. 8's a nice little Goldilocks number, but I didn't set out to use it. It had no sacred geometry meaning to me. Yeah. It was just something that I plucked out of thin air, or maybe not.
Well, so this is a mind-blowing, if you're saying that it's not just about 8, that it could even be smaller or bigger. I mean, doesn't that turn everything on its head, and saying that we have so much power within ourselves when we bring this group intention together, that it can shift.
We have power within a group. We have power within ourselves, but what we need is a group. And one of the things that I've discovered, now it can be a group of any size. I think 3 is a little bit small.
Okay.
But 5 works, 12 works. I think more than 12, it starts getting a little ungainly when you're dealing with a power of 8 group. But here's the fascinating thing about it. The group dynamic, the small group dynamic, is so powerful that it doesn't just affect the receiver, it affects the senders. I have so many stories where the senders were in power-based groups. I mean, I run master classes where I teach people about intention, and I put them in groups, and we work together for a whole year. And what's happened with some of the people, most of the people have amazing experience right away and carry on as receivers. But some are stuck. And when they are, like Andy was really stuck. She was a woman who was recently divorced, going through a divorce, had 2 small kids, and really needed a new job. And she was a very talented marketer. She had just sold her gift shop, and she wanted a new job in coaching or marketing. She couldn't get anything. And everybody kept intending for her in her group. So I finally just said, Andy, get off of yourself. Start intending for someone else. And I had someone else in mind, in a young boy who was 15 at the time and had broken up with his first serious girlfriend, and in a fit of adolescent angst threw himself off of a 40-foot structure onto hard ground. And, you know, Luke nearly died. He broke everything. He had brain damage. He had bones broken all over the place. He had nerve damage. The doctors definitely didn't think he was going to live. So we did a healing vigil, our groups, for about 3 Sundays straight. And while his parents kept running commentary about Luke and how he responded each time, and there were amazing shifts with each of our intentions for him. Now, Luke got out of the hospital in record time. Today, he's a normal, healthy 18-year-old boy. A miracle, right?
Yeah.
But maybe that was us. Maybe it was just good doctoring. But I know it wasn't a placebo effect, because Luke, like most 15-year-olds, thought his parents' beliefs were stupid, particularly their beliefs in the power of intention. But here's the interesting part of the story, which is Andy. Getting back to Andy, as soon as Andy focused her attention off of herself and onto Luke, she gets a call out of nowhere from someone she doesn't even know, offering her her dream job. And that has happened over and over and over again with so many people, where they've set an intention, even when it's only been a single 10-minute Power of 8 group. I've had amazing people who have had amazing experiences that have just completely altered their lives.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about setting an intention. We'll go into how you do it in the group setting with the Power of 8, but just in general, can you share with people the most powerful way for them to set an intention?
Well, I actually teach 13 keys to intention mastery in my master class. So there's a lot of technique based on science and ancient wisdom that I've put together that is, beyond the course of this webinar. But I can tell you there's one really important tip I could give you.
Okay.
And that is to be specific. So many people have all kinds of received wisdom about intention. Oh, I can't mention anything negative. So they don't mention the fact that they have cancer, And I keep saying to people, tell the universe what you want, but exactly what you want. Most people will do things like, I want to be rich, when they don't really mean they want to be rich. What they mean maybe is they need $20,000 to buy a new car, or they hate their job and they want to change jobs, or they just don't want to work this hard. They want to see their children or grandchildren more, or any one of a number of things, but they don't necessarily want all the things involved in riches and being very wealthy. They want more time, a new job, a specific amount of money. So I always say, tell the universe exactly what you want. Make it very specific. And the more specific, the better. And so many people say things like, oh, but if you make it specific, you don't allow for something even greater to happen. Well, if you don't tell the universe what you want, it doesn't know to give you anything more.
Fascinating. So you've got to be so specific that it allows for room for them to give you that or something more.
Yeah, but just ask for what you want.
Yeah.
Don't sort of say, well, yeah, but I really want much, much more than this.
Yeah.
Trust that you specify what it is you want and tell the universe about it.
Yeah. Clarity is such an important key to receiving and being able to get what you want. We
Yeah.
are in the midst of what I believe is this, conscious revolution. And I think it's showing up in a very unique way right now in the world with the COVID-19, the coronavirus. How can we use these techniques and the power of eight to really help at a time like this?
Well, I think we're in a really interesting crossroads where it could go either way. People have talked for years about, oh, we're evolving and we're, moving into a new consciousness. That was being spoken about at great length around 2012 when everybody was predicting the end of the world.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen, and also after 2008, after the financial crash, the world as we know it is going down, as people kept saying. I didn't see too much evidence of that afterward. I felt that things went back to the way they always were, which is more or less I win, you lose. And people went back to sleep. Now we're being slapped awake by an unprecedented situation with the pandemic. And now I keep talking about it as an interesting opportunity because so many of the practices we know, so many of our ways of doing things, so many ways of doing business are going to have to change. They will change forever. And we're seeing little signs of that. We're seeing that the people who run the banks and the people who run the big corporations are suddenly saying, well, actually, I've taken I'm only taking half my pay now, because they're realizing this is starting with so much want. This is starting to look disgusting. And we're seeing certain other things of people having to cluster together, even though we're all separated, socially isolated, in different ways. So I think this is a big opportunity, but we have to take it. We have to vow to do it better. Now, what we've done is, besides all of these books on science and spirituality, the other side of me is a journalist, as I mentioned, who runs a magazine called What Doctors Don't Tell You and an organization called Get Well, where we do shows and webinars to help people learn about and get over any of their illnesses, their chronic conditions, with holistic ways. And one of the things we've done recently is a 4-part webinar called Supercharge Yourself Against Coronavirus. We've spoken to experts about natural virus killers that people aren't hearing about in the mainstream media, that there are loads of things that kill viruses, and you can prevent or treat with these substances. We've talked about ways to boost your immune system, moves to boost your immune system. But the other thing we've talked about is staying calm and connected during this turbulent time. And with this webinar, I was talking as well. We had some other people as well. But in this one, I talked a lot about staying connected with the power of 8. Now, because people are so isolated, one of the real great antidotes I've found is creating a little virtual Power of 8 group. And remember, it doesn't have to be 8, it can be 5, it can be 12. Right. I've set up a Facebook page called Connecting and Healing Through the Power of 8 as a portal for people to just advertise for other people in their time zones, to set up groups of 8. And I found that this is such a healing mechanism, because in isolation, we start worrying and thinking and obsessing about ourselves. And this way, particularly when you're with a group of strangers, it's so strengthening, because you have to get off of yourself. You have to start worrying about them as well. And I think that this kind of situation where you're meeting regularly with a virtual group of 8 can become essentially your intention family, as it is for the thousands and thousands of groups that I know about, have organized with my master classes or whatever.
And that's really powerful. So I think that as you're listening to this, everyone, really important to create your own group of 5, 8, 12 to really work on the transforming at this time of what's happening in our lives to create those intentions. And if you want supercharge yourself against the coronavirus, stay healthy, fit, and calm, the series that she was talking about, please go to the link below and grab this amazing series so that you can find out ways to supercharge yourself against the coronavirus, techniques that aren't being shared out in the media, and really get yourself into a space where you can be healthy and fit and calm during these really trying times. So go to the link below and supercharge yourself against coronavirus. Stay healthy and fit and calm. And if you're loving listening to Lynne and Quantum Miracles Mastering what she has to say, please share this episode with everyone that you love so that you can learn about intention and the power of 8 and everything else that is that we're discussing today. So I'd love to dive back in a little bit more around the power of 8. And I know you can't really go into in this webinar about how to create this whole situation, but if you could get us some pointers and tips on how they can start out creating this group and what the steps are, that would be great.
Sure. I mean, one of the first steps is to advertise that you want a group of 8. And as I say, it doesn't have to be your friends. It's almost better if it's not your friends, because you end up having this extraordinary connection with people who are total strangers. I have people who have run Power of 8 groups. They've been part of my Intention Masterclass, and they've been in Power of 8 groups for years, and they've never physically met. Yet these are their super best buddies. They are their intention family. So first, if you have 8 people or thereabouts who you know, you can set it up with them. If you don't, as I say, we have a Facebook group called Connecting and Healing Through the Power of 8. You can just come on there and check out who's asking for being on, having people in their time zone. And we've got people around the world saying, hey, I'm in New Zealand and I need people in this time zone. Hey, I'm in America on the East Coast. Who's on my time zone who wants to join? And people are connecting and forming groups there. So first you need the people. And then it's probably a good idea to set up a leader. So you need a leader, and you essentially need an intention statement that you decide together. So when you're on together, and you can work on Zoom or Google Hangouts or House Party or whatever you want, some virtual platform. Come on together, decide who's going to get the intention that week, and come together and work on a very specific statement for the person. So essentially, as I say, there's 13 keys to intention mastery for the right heart states and mind states, etc. I don't have the time to go into that now. But what's really important in a Power of 8 group is you all hold the intention together. You all hold it mentally as you go into a breathing, a technique of just breathing together, and just bring it down to your heart and send out that intention. Allow yourself to visualize that person in whatever capacity, enhanced capacity you're intending for, whether it's their health or their finances or whatever. And you're all holding it. And I found all you need to do is 10 minutes. Now, another place where I've got a primer of how to do it is in my book, The Power of 8. So you can get a lot more tips in there too. But as I say, the key element is you're all holding the same thought at the same time, allowing yourself to visualize, etc. The person who's leading can be the timekeeper. I've found we started doing them for 10 minutes with intention experiments. I did the same for Power of 8 groups, mainly because people were involved who had never meditated before. And I figured 10 minutes is about the time they might be able to focus without getting really distracted. And that's still the case, but we don't need it. I mean, I've had people reverse stage 4 cancer after 10 minutes. So you don't need any more than that to change somebody's life.
So 8 people in 10 minutes is all it takes to change someone's life. That's pretty powerful. When you hear all of the different techniques and things and stuff in the world, when you can boil something down and say it really is this simple to actually affect a life or help people change, it makes it something that I think anybody and everybody can do.
Absolutely. As I say, there's a lot of technique involved to becoming a good intender. And I find that with my year-long masterclass group, people, even after months, will be asking me certain basic questions about how to do certain things. There's the refinement, but the bottom line is, once learned, the technique itself doesn't require, years of practice. You don't need sweat lodges. You don't need to, walk on your knees for years. You don't need to develop the techniques of a Buddhist monk. One thing we did with Power of Eight groups is we subjected them to brainwave studies, because I wanted to find out, well, things alter in these people so much. What is it? And so Life University, one of the largest chiropractic universities in the world, very kindly offered to put their neuroscience department at my disposal. So I worked with them. They set up a pilot study where we had groups of seven groups of students with Power of Eight groups. They'd never even done this before. Most of them were novices, complete novices that hadn't even meditated. So we had them do it while we put an EEG cap measuring the brain waves essentially of one of the members each time, one of the senders. And we found that very quickly, over and over again, it got replicated in all the groups. Very quickly, a number of things would happen to the person's brain. The parts of the brain making someone feel separate, the parietal lobes, which sit right here, they tell us what's me and what's not me. They helped us to navigate through space. They were dialed way down, as were the parts of the frontal lobes involved with worry, doubt, and negativity. So these were essentially people in a state of ecstatic oneness. Their brainwave signatures did not look like, they didn't resemble those involved with people involved with meditation. Much more the brainwave signatures of Buddhist monks during ecstatic prayer, Sufi masters during chanting, as measured by the University of Pennsylvania. These were people in a state of ecstatic oneness, and that's the key, I think. There are many things. There are getting off of yourself. There's the group effect. There's intention. But there is this mystical transformation, this state of oneness that people talk about after the intention experiments. I survey the people who are part of that. The people who are part of my master classes and Power of Eight groups, they write about this continuously, this sense of being in this altered state. And so, as you said, takes 10 minutes. It's a fast track to the miraculous. You don't need years of disciplined practice or hours of priming. All you need is a group, and you will be transformed.
I just think that's one of the most powerful things, because I think so many people in the world think that for them to change their lives or to transform, that it takes a complete overhaul, that you have to do a bunch of all these things. And when you really boil it down, learn the 13 techniques, and then just this group, a small group, and creating these intentions together is transformative.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Need that. People need simple ways to be able to change their lives, because so many times the out there, like spirituality or these things that are out there, seem so foreign or so hard to grasp. And this gives us a way to say, no, it really is this simple. You're considered one of the #1 authorities on intention, spirituality, and the new science. What is your definition of spirituality?
I think spirituality can come in many guises. Doesn't have to be one thing. It doesn't have to be belief in a guy who is sitting on a cloud up in the sky. I think it is the sense of unity and a sense of feeling that there is something larger than yourself, that you are not just a collection of chemistry and electrical signaling that ends when you die. I think it is that sense of being part of something bigger. And I think that's also why the Power of Eight groups are so powerful, because they give us a visceral sense of that we're part of something bigger. People talk to me, thousands of people have written in with the intention experiments to say, I felt like I was part of a higher network. I could feel my arms and all my limbs tingling and with unbelievable electricity. People write about these extraordinary physical effects. And remember, they're joining in by sitting in front of a computer screen all together on my website at the same time. They're all individual, and yet there is this extraordinary psychic internet going on.
Wow, beautiful. All right, so we have 2 more questions for Lynne before we go today. So if, again, look below, yet supercharge yourself against the coronavirus, stay healthy and fit and calm, and share this with anybody and everybody that you want to understand about intention and the power of 8. So Lynne, you're on your deathbed and you have one truth that you can leave for all of your friends, family, and humanity to know. What would you say?
I think I would say I was gifted with this technique, this power of 8 technique. It came to me by accident. I guess I was meant to be a gatekeeper, and to protect it in a sense. And I have done that. I've protected. That's why it took me a long time to even write about it. I wanted to understand it more, but I also wanted to protect it from people just using it for, mercenary means. But this also belongs to the world. This is something we have, a capacity we have. We're all born with. It's our birthright. So I guess what I would tell everybody is, don't squander this gift. Use it. Use the power of the group, of coming together, and it will transform your life and transform the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now we're in the need of a lot of transformation. So bringing groups together to work on that and work on healing each other in the world is going to be super powerful.
Absolutely.
If you could do one thing in this world before you pass to the next realm, what would you do?
Let's see, skydiving?
Yeah. Yes. I want to do that too.
I think I would like to be part of, and I have written a lot about this and noticed a lot about it, but I would like to be part of something that really helps to heal this planet and hurl it in a completely new direction from the direction we've been heading in. I think that we are at a crossroads now. It's a really interesting time, and I would hope that my work would also offer hope and possibly a way forward for people. And most of what I've written about, I suppose, in my life, the bottom line for all of it has been hope, trying to give hope to people. And so I think I would want to do that and make people not say, ain't it awful about what's now, but isn't it possible? Isn't this our chance to do it all better? To build over essentially scorched ground. We can do it better. We can be better than we've been. We can be more inclusive. We can be kinder. We can be I win, you win. And I look forward to, there's a real powerful thing in people working together for a common goal. It's called a superordinate goal, and it's an amazing way of bringing people together. And I think that's going to happen, where people will be united in building our world together. And I really hope to be part of that.
Oh, me too. That's really one of my goals. I say all the time to my friends and people that know me, and when I'm traveling around doing my work, and I say within my lifetime, in the next 50 years, I mean, I'm only in my 40s, that I think that we'll actually see the world won't be the same. We won't see things together because we'll have this ability, because so many people, we're going to reach a critical mass where the collective consciousness is going to shift at some point, I believe. And that's, this opportunity, like you said, to have that in our lifetimes, I think is really possible. Bye.